But overall, what we kind of want to talk about is the overall feeling of, are people riding less now?
Just from my observation, there are less and less people riding.
Less and less people are riding now. We got the coolest white guy I know, Jerry. Yo, man, it's been a while. How's your foot? Jerry's in a boot. Well, we're here hanging out. We're gonna be going over a topic today, specific to something kind of Jerry wanted to talk about today. Producer Jerry.
Yeah.
What was that?
Just from my observation, there are less and less people riding.
Less and less people are riding now.
Yeah.
And where are you getting this?
Well, just an observation from, I just came back from Americade up in Lake George or whatever. And obviously I didn't ride, but you know, the attendance was down this year as far as bikes and people and everything. And just a general observation of like what I see, like, cause that's like a multi-brand rally. It's not like a Harley rally. So you see all types of bikes. Mm-hmm. And I did see all types of bikes, but not
as much as you.
Not as much as previous years.
You have mentioned to me that usually they have a big flock of Canadians that flock down there because it's right next to Canada.
Yeah,
south of
it's right by Canada. Yeah.
And you told me that this year a lot of Canadians didn't come down.
No, some not what they said, like it's like 20% normally, and it wasn't like, you know.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. All right, and then Americade is a big flock of just different brands, right?
Yes. All different brands. They have demos from like 20 different riders. Yeah, everything up there. BMWs, KTM.
I've never been to Americade. So yeah. Would you say that Americade is probably similar to Laconia in a way? Laconia is like too heavy on Harley, right?
Laconia is heavy on Harley and heavy on like vendors for like leather and all that stuff or whatever. Where this is more of like a multi-brand. It started out as like a Goldwing rally, then it transitioned into like Harley people, and then you have everything now. You have sport bikes, you have standard bikes. I mean, I see everything up there. But it just, this year it seemed like there was less and less people, and then also the demographic of people. Mm-hmm. To me, it seemed like older people, like even older than me.
Boomers.
Yeah, or
because you're Gen X, right?
Gen X.
Okay.
I'm Gen X. 1968, I was born. Yeah.
Okay, so you're definitely Gen X. So you saw a lot more older
people.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, a lot more older people and a lot younger people. Like, and that's more.
So there's nothing in the middle.
There is, but not a lot. Like what I saw mostly was a lot of gray old people, and a lot of younger kids. And what I saw was too, like I met this guy and his son and his friend. They were talking because they were looking for a place to buy T-shirts because I got the American T-shirt on or whatever. He said that, you know, I said, don't buy them here, buy them down here or whatever. So we went to the place, and then we met him down there again. We saw him. It's like, hey. And he's on a older bagger. He was like on the 03 anniversary bagger, and his son, you know, I said, well, what are you guys riding? They're like, well, we ride sport bikes. So they were on like, you know, R1s and R6.
I was going to ask you that. I'm like, all right, well, my question to you was going to be, if you're looking at the older crowd, the boomers, what are they riding?
They're riding baggers.
All
either
Harleys.
Like Goldwings or Harleys or like a bagger.
Okay. And then all the younger demographic was on sport bikes for the most part?
Pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's kids out. There's people on Harleys. There was a bunch of sportsters up there. There was guys ripping it up on sportsters or whatever, and Dynas and stuff. But what I see more is when you see like groups of people riding, you'll see like 3 bikes come up, and it'll be like 1 bagger, 2 sport bikes, or 2 baggers, 1 sport bike. Like there wasn't like a, you know, or you see all BMW riders, or you'll see like Honda riders, but they're mixed with.
Yeah.
You know, so somebody's riding like a bagger and somebody's riding something totally different.
Right.
But I think that's where the transition is. Like when I was younger, I used to ride sport bikes. That's how I started. I started on a Ninja 600, and we used to ride sport bikes all the time, and I didn't want to buy a Harley. And then my cousin bought a Harley, and my one friend bought a Harley right out of high school. And even though I thought they were cool, they were slow, big, heavy, and I was like, eh. But then I transitioned into that pretty early, actually.
Okay. Now, it's very interesting because you had this whole vision when you went to America now, And then I had the total opposite when I was out in Milwaukee for the King of the Baggers race, where the attendance there, from what I hear and from what I saw,
was off the charts.
Was off the charts. It was record.
Yeah.
You know, so people were coming out in flocks. And honestly, when you think about, what's this part called? Motor America. When you think about Motor America, you think, most of the time you just think about sport bikes.
Yeah.
And everything else, right?
Well, they got the hooligan class.
The hooligan class and, what's that brand? The little weird, cheaper brand. Royal Enfield.
They were racing Royal Enfields?
Yeah, they have their own little league too.
Oh, really?
So they have that. But, I mean, they're mainly known for sport bike races. And
I know some places have Grom races too. Like,
yeah.
They, you know.
But now, obviously, since King of the Baggers started, like, the Harley fans are coming out more and more every year, right? It's really exciting. And this year, you can see, I was roll ticket back. I'm like, wow. I'm going around the whole park, and all I see is just baggers everywhere. Baggers all over the place.
So a lot of people rode there.
A lot of people rode there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, it was a different experience for me. But overall, what we kind of want to talk about is the overall feeling of, are people riding less now? And if so, I think we got to dig deeper into. We got to dig deeper into a little bit of everything, right? Also, generations as well. So I want to break down for everybody different generations, because everybody thinks it's only. I feel like everybody always forgets about Gen X, because we either just mention boomers, or millennials, right?
Yeah, you forget all about us.
We forget all about the Gen Xers, which are Gen Xers are the ones with a lot of the money right now too. The boomers they're
not me.
Dying out. The Gen Xers are the ones with the most of the money, you could say.
Yeah.
So real quick, a little breakdown for you guys if you don't know. So these are gonna be the main generations right now. So let's start with boomers, because before that, they're already that silent generation.
Mm-hmm.
So baby boomers were born from 1946 to 1964. What year were you born?
1968.
You were born 1968. So Generation X, which is you, born from 1965 to 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Right away after that, millennials, which is me, 1981 to 1996. I was born in 87. Then you got the weird generation, Generation Z, 1997 to 2012, which these are all, if people spoke about millennials before, how millennials were lazy, whatever, but there's two kind of millennials. There's the early on millennials and the late millennials. But Generation Z are the fuckheads from now that are just super sensitive, don't want to work, complain about everything, super fragile, and they're not into stuff like this. They're not into the motorcycle stuff. They're not into
they barely drive.
Adventuring. They don't like driving. They don't like spending money. They're like zombies. After that, we got the Generation Alpha, which is Bryce.
Yeah.
Which I think Generation Alpha is gonna be the ones that are gonna come the clock circled all around and now
take charge. Yeah.
And they're gonna take charge. So they're gonna be the modern Generation X, you could say.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're growing right now, you could say tough times. They're gonna be built up to have a good support system, right? So that's just a little breakdown of that. When you look at, and let's just say let's talk about Harleys right now. We look at people who ride Harleys. That generation is mostly the boomers are buying trikes right now. They're buying the icons, like whatever.
Yeah.
Then the Gen Xers, like you, a lot of baggers, a lot of heritage. What you could say? Maybe Fat Boys, right? That's a Gen Xers.
Yeah, most guys that ride don't really. I mean, like I got a Fat Boy and a Heritage, but I had a Heritage Springer or whatever. But I went back old school from the baggers because I don't.
Because you're old school Jerry.
Well, plus I don't ride that far anymore.
And you're old school Jerry.
Because I can't.
And then like most millennials, they're into the baggers. Like King of the Baggers race for us is like a big thing, and then softails as well.
Yeah.
Right. Now when you look at Generation Z, that's the generation that I think Harley's having a really hard time tapping into right now. trying to get these really young riders into it.
You know what I see too is also, I think the Generation Z is into the electric scooters and bicycles because you don't need anything. You don't have to wear gear. You can go 40 miles an hour on the freaking things, and you can park them anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think to them and it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of those. I saw a lot of those up in the Americade.
Oh,
kids ripping down the strip on freaking scooters.
Interesting.
And because they could ride on the sidewalks. I mean, I don't know if they're supposed to, but they ride on the sidewalks, they ride on the street.
Yeah.
They ride all over the place with them. And I think to them that's more of a, like one guy I was watching said, oh, what happened to, when we were kids in the 80s, you'd ride your dirt bike down the street and the cops would come and you get busted and whatever. He goes, now they ride these scooters faster than we could ride our dirt bikes back then, and nothing happens to them.
Yeah. But it's I think that is like the toughest thing right now for not even Harley Davidson, but the rest of these companies who are trying to tap into that realm of how do we get these people, these younger people, into our companies. Let's not even talk about even the Harley, but look at KTM. KTM is like bankrupt. These other, even Japanese companies, they're not making that much money anymore. They're not selling that many units. A lot of these brands, they have their models standing or sitting, might I say, on the shop floors. Because they're not moving around
tons of bikes, but the thing is they're going to at least a smaller bike or whatever. Like Harley embraces let's sell the most expensive freaking thing we can for the most amount of money and make the least amount of product. Where Indian, they turn around and they say, oh, our number one seller is the Scout. So we're going to sell Scouts because they're 10, 12 grand.
A lot of Scouts.
Yeah, that's their number one seller. Not the baggers, the Scouts.
For them it's the Scouts.
Yeah.
Which is a great bike. For Harley is
I mean, the Scout's a great bike. It's a great little bike.
It is.
I mean, it's too small for me, but then again, I also had a Sportsters, which was too small for me. But
the Scout Rogue is a great bike.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at it differently. Like same thing with Honda. Like Honda, I think you're selling the small bikes, like the Rebels, the 300, 500s or whatever, the beginners, the DCT.
Yeah, but the other bikes are not selling now either.
No.
There are other bikes that are just selling, even like their sport bikes, the CBRs. They're just sitting.
Yeah.
A lot of brands are having this issue, so it's not like a Harley thing. It's
I think it's an economy thing too.
It's an economy thing. It's a generational. It's a generational thing. And interesting is, and it's just the time and place right now. I think people before we had all this technology, we were more adventurous.
Oh yeah.
I grew up without tech. Like my generation, we were the generation that grew up with all the new technology coming in. So we grew up without the technology, but then we grew up also experiencing what was coming out at the same time.
I think I grew up at one of the greatest times
you guys had zero.
Well, when I was in high school, I was in data processing. We used to sit there and we used to have to punch cards.
Yeah.
And then put it through to run the program or whatever, because that's how bad it was.
But what I'm trying to get at is that before I think people were more adventurous.
Now it's this.
So a motorcycle looks, for us it looked, whoa, that looks adventurous. That's
freedom.
Fast. That's freedom. That's cool. It's different.
To get away and not be trapped in a car.
But now it's not like that. Now people are not that adventurous, Like I don't.
No, people think when they want to go adventurous, like people would be like, oh, you like back in the day, like back in the 80s, you get on a plane and go to another country or whatever, and that was your adventure for the summer or whatever. You get your passport and you go travel around Europe on the train or whatever or something. But now they were like, oh, yeah, I want to see what Rome's like. They pull out their phone and go.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like when you went to, you like I said to you, like, oh, you went to London and you said, oh, I only went there for one day, but you saw all this stuff because you didn't go in. You went, took pictures in Big Ben and the bridge and all that stuff. And then when you went to Paris, you took pictures here and there, but you didn't do all the touristy stuff. That's why you're able to do it in like 3 days. But at least you went there. Like other people would just be like, oh, I can Photoshop myself in there.
Yeah. Well, me and my wife, we do a lot of, when we travel, we do like a heavy itinerary. And we're like timed with everything. So we're like, we're going to hit this spot. We're going to see this. And after that, we're going to go here. And so we're those type of travelers.
Yeah, because I was like, me and my wife would want to stay in London for like 3 days and then stay in Paris for a week. And then I'd be like, I can't afford that.
No. I mean, I wish, but, we were out there for like a week and a half or a week. And you know, we visited like 4 different countries.
I was just going to say,
which is pretty
it's
cool.
like 3 countries. I know
Yeah.
you did 4.
We did France, we did London, we did
remember that.
Switzerland, and we did. What was the other one?
Amsterdam?
No, Italy was a different time.
Yeah.
So we did 3 different countries.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but it was a cool, really. No, we did do Italy. Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did?
So it was 4, yeah. So it was a really good experience. But I don't know, man. Like it's just super weird. Like there's times where I'm driving and I do see less riders on the road.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like I said, I haven't been riding for quite a few months now or whatever, so, but, you know.
But when you're out and about.
Well, even when my wife takes me to, my wife's my chauffeur now, because I can't drive, so she takes me to, you know, the doctor, we go out or whatever, and then I look around, and because I always, like, you know, when you see a motorcycle, you're like, motorcycle, you know, like.
Right.
Because I like when we were up in like Georgia or whatever, like I was like, oh, motorcycle. You know, it's like,
but even like around our area here, there's
less.
Lately, I
mean, there was a lot of people commuting for a while, but I don't know if people are now not commuting as much, or, I mean, traffic's insane.
Yeah.
But I don't see that many bikes.
Could you say also that because of the economy that people are not taking their extra funds to spend it on a motorcycle? Because at the end of the day, and I've said this plenty of times, motorcycles here for us, for the most
It's a
part,
toy.
for most Americans, is a toy. It's not like we live in a third world country where a motorcycle is your main source.
That's me.
Right?
That's my main source when I'm working.
Well, you choose.
Yes.
But you don't have to.
No.
You love
I
riding
choose,
every day, right?
yeah.
But for the most part, for the average person outside of this country, a motorcycle, that's just your transportation. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, here for us, it's more of a leisure thing. It's like, oh, if you can afford it, it's a nice toy.
You take it out.
Cool, you
nice day,
take it
or
out, and that's what it is. So now with the economy being not where it should be, people are very hesitant to spend money on expensive toys, and not for nothing, but motorcycles have gotten a lot more expensive than what they were, let's say, 10 years ago, right? 20 years ago.
I mean, I also think too, like when I went up to Lake George, like we stayed at 2 different hotels. So the one hotel was like a couple $100 for 2 nights or whatever at the beginning of the week, but when America kicks in, they raised.
Oh, of course.
So the one hotel we stayed in for a little cabin, like a 2-bedroom cabin, for 3 nights was like $1,100. So
Big Ball of Jerry.
not so much. But and then with food and everything, I think people are like we used to go up there years ago and used to have to wait to get into restaurants.
Really?
I walked into every restaurant this year like they were barely open. You know, like I'm not saying there wasn't people there, but there wasn't as many people. I think people are cutting back, and you choose to cut back on what you cut back on. Like I don't know what the shore is like as far as this year with traffic. Like, you know, whether this next coming week will probably be the judge because it's going to be in the 90s, and usually people go to the beach.
Yeah.
But Laconia's going on right now, and Ben put up from Bikes and Brews or whatever, put up a video. He went to Laconia on Sunday. Didn't look that crowded. I mean, there was people, but it didn't look.
Shout out to
Ben.
Bikes and Brews, man. They're always reaching out. Pretty cool guys. And it didn't look crowded.
There was a crowd, but like he said, usually the line for the cars all the way back, like, and people went right up, and then he turned in by Weir's Beach, and then he went to the vendors, and didn't look like much of anything.
I didn't hear of many people going up this area to Laconia.
Well, everybody we know,
right?
I think 1 or 2 guys.
That was it. Yeah, I swear.
You know. I mean, Laconia. I want to go to. I've never been to Laconia. I want to go to Laconia.
You didn't go?
Never.
You were supposed to go a few years back.
Yeah, and then I forgot what happened. I don't know.
I think you had taken so much time off of work and you don't have more time.
Yeah, I didn't have the time or whatever. Yeah, because it's like a 6-hour ride, and I can't do that in one shot. I can't do that in one shot. Not me. So I can ride every day, but I can't. You know, when I'm on my foot's small. Yeah. But I can't ride 6 hours. Three is probably my max.
Okay. So, just to wrap everything up, what if you could say right now, what is the whole thing of why do you think people are riding less?
I think it's like you said, the generation is not in touch with, unless the only reason those guys, like they said, those guys were riding is because they ride a bike because their dad rode a bike. And he, even though the guy rides a Harley, they like the sport bike. And then they, like he said, well, eventually I'll get a Harley when I can afford it, whether it's used or new or whatever. But even sport bikes aren't cheap anymore. And like you said, but motorcycles in general.
Dude, like this bike
this
here.
This bike costs more than that bike, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, not now, but originally.
Yeah.
Yeah. After you did all the shit to that, you know, but this bike off the line is not, you know, it's a car.
Yeah.
It's a car.
Yeah.
Not an expensive car, but a car.
It's a car, yeah.
You know, and like you said, some people don't. Me, I'd rather ride my bike in the rain and the cold with heated gear or whatever than sit in a car and be stuck in traffic when I can like get out of places or get around stuff or whatever. For me, and then like, you know, I was like, well, I could either. People were like, well, how do you ride in the wintertime? I'm like, well, don't you have a car? I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to drive my car. And I could take a train and a bus or whatever, but I could sit on a train platform for a half hour, or I could ride in the cold for a half hour and be at work.
Right.
So, you know, to me, it's more of a choice, like you said. And once I get my disc off and I can ride again, I will ride every day again. You'll see my posts on Instagram and everything. But right now, I'm like, you know.
So it's a whole generational thing.
Yeah, generation, economy, and then the weather has been shit.
The weather has been really bad. Like every week, I want to ride any of these two bikes, and I can't.
Yeah.
I can't because it's been raining here nonstop.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, this is the longest I've ever not ridden since last year till now or whatever. In my whole career of riding, the 40 years of riding or whatever, I never have not been riding this long, and I didn't miss it in the wintertime because we had such a shitty winter.
Yeah.
I would have rode.
This winter was actually not that bad. It didn't snow. It wasn't that cold.
It was cold. My heat was kicking like crazy, man.
Not like previous years. It was, I'm sorry.
You know.
Why is it you think that there's not that many riders or people riding less?
Economy. Generational. And lack of interest, I guess, in riding because they don't see the benefit or whatever in riding, because when you were younger, you know, you go out and your father would take you out on a bike or whatever. I think that's how you started, right? Your father would take back in the Dominican, would take you on a bike or whatever.
Yeah, my dad had an old Yamaha, 1-cylinder, and that was our transportation. And it was my father, my mom, me, and my little brother on one bike.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And that was our transportation over there.
Jeez, like almost like you were in India where they put like 5 people or 10 people on it.
That's so, you know, these other third world countries, that's how it is. Like these motorcycles, they're meant for transportation. Yeah. And whether it was you got stuck in the rain or whatever, or just going through these dirt roads, there's just a pound of like smoke everywhere, and you just
I used to ride.
It was an adventure, but I like that. Even as a little kid, I still remember that. I liked it.
I mean, we started off when I was a kid with, you know, like dirt bikes and stuff like that. I had mopeds. I was one of the first person, like, you know, when you got the moped license of 14 or 15 or whatever it was, I was riding a moped for years. Then the transition to the motorcycle. I mean, I got into cars and then motorcycle, but I've always wanted to like ride. I always like to ride. I feel freer. I mean, everybody's like, oh, it's dangerous or whatever, but everything's dangerous.
We, in my generation, we also grew up on riding a lot of bicycles too.
Oh yeah, always.
So
always. I used to ride miles.
So as a kid, your bicycle is your motorcycle.
Yeah.
And when as a kid you say, well, my bicycle, one day I'm gonna have a motorcycle because this is how I want to ride it.
Yeah.
That was our mentality.
Oh yeah, I went from bicycle to moped. I remember when, like, I always wanted for years and years. I used to have like a Sting, a Stingray, a Schwinn Stingray, and I always wanted the BMX, like a Red Line or one of those. What the hell's the other one? The real popular ones back then. Like
Mongoose?
Like a Mongoose BMX bike, but they were like $600.
Yeah.
So when I wanted the moped, my father with the moped at that time was like $800-900 because I wanted like the top of the line poop moped or whatever. My father's like, you want that Mongoose now? I'm like, fuck no. He's like, but I'll buy it for you now. I'm like, no.
I had the low budget. I had a Huffy.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think there's just a lot that goes into this whole spectrum of people getting into motorcycle, getting into riding. I think even us as riders, all of us, what we can do is our due diligence to be more inviting.
Educate people.
And educate people, be more inviting, to get more people out there to ride. Because the more people ride, the more motorcycles they buy, the more these companies open up their eyes, and the more development they have, the more different bikes they have. But when there's no interest, people don't buy, companies don't make money, they go out of business, and then that's an end of an era, and that's a sad day.
And then also these events too, like I said,
These events go away.
We'll find out at the end of this week how Laconia did it, if there was up, down, or the same, or whatever. But and then we got Sturgis coming up.
And Milwaukee Homecoming.
Yeah,
I'll be out there.
Homecoming before
Homecoming. Yeah. What do you guys think? Drop your thoughts and your comments down below. Do you guys agree with it? Do you think it's something else? Maybe something we didn't mention.
Yeah,
drop it down below. Yeah. That's gonna be it. This is Jerry, the coolest white guy I know. We're gonna have a few more videos coming up in the future, so tune in for that. And if you're not yet subscribed, go ahead, subscribe. It's free. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video, and like always, let the force be with you. Ride safe and enjoy the ride, baby.
Peace.
Peace. We got the coolest guy. Wait, nah, damn. It's the coolest gay guy, you know?
That'd be you.